Now that the stock price of Tesla is continuing to fall and everything looks to be in disarray, the issue that is on everyone's mind is if we can still retire from Tesla stock. Is it realistic to expect Tesla to turn things around? And if so, how many shares are necessary at the incredibly low prices right now? However, do you know what the bright side is? When the price is lower, it is easier to accumulate more shares, which will ultimately increase our value. Now let's explore these uncertainties and make use of the most recent chart. If you already agree, hit the like button and grab a piece of popcorn. If not, now is the perfect time to subscribe. Let's find out what it takes to have a comfortable and hands-off retirement by 2030. It appears impossible to stop the Tesla stock's seemingly endless decline. But hey, let's pause in the middle of the confusion to enjoy these cheap pricing. Many of us are in it for the long run, aiming for that sweet retirement in 2030, even with the short-term volatility. We need a passive monthly income of $6,000 or $72,000 yearly to be extremely comfortably retired by 2030. An annual inflation rate of 5 is factored into this computation for the years 2022 through 2030. Although there are others who would contend that the inflation rate could be lower, let's proceed cautiously and use this figure. We would need a 7% return on $1 million investment in order to make this income. What will yield a 7% return by 2030 is the key question. We don't know how much money Tesla will make in the future, therefore some people might think about holding onto and profiting from it. Conversely, throughout the previous century, the S&P 500 has traditionally averaged a yearly return of about 10.5%. As market changes cannot be foreseen with exact accuracy, let's assume a 7% return just to be safe. And I understand that given the possibility of larger gains, selling Tesla might not be your first option, but we must take into account the available data. Although Tesla has been in business for a remarkable 15 to 17 years, we can place greater trust in the 500's 100-year track record when it comes to long-term dependability. Thus, these are the qualifications you'll need in order to retire comfortably by 2030. Recall that you should be able to live off of this strategy for at least 40 to 45 years. That will be quite the trek. Let's now investigate the various situations. In the extreme bear scenario, 10 million automobiles with an average selling price of $40,000 are anticipated to be sold by 2030. Gary Black estimates $48,000, but we're sticking with our more cautious estimate of $40,000. With whooping $400 billion in automotive revenue and a 20 operating margin, this would generate $80 billion in profits. Regarding energy, our projections indicate sales of about $28 billion based on a 20 compound annual growth rate beginning in 2022. And with a 20 operating margin, this translates into earnings above $5, 5 cents billion. Let's not forget about services now. Services will eventually account for a sizable portion of Tesla's earnings, in my opinion. Looking at the Q1 2020 profits, it has been profitably growing and expanding. All right, let's give it an operating margin of 20. Profits from services would come to around $8 billion from this. To put the success in perspective, we're looking at $466 billion in total revenue, $93 billion in income, and 3.5 billion outstanding shares. Since it would make sense to dilute, I've incorporated a share buyback. In the bear scenario, however, things are a little bit different. We are examining 50 million automobiles that were sold for an average of $35,000 in sales. With a 25 compound annual growth rate, $60 billion energy sales is anticipated. Got a 20 operating margin. Services would bring in almost $8 billion in revenue. We're looking at over $600 billion in revenue, approximately $124 in income, and over 38 EPS overall. Let's now discuss the most basic scenario. We're going to assume here that 20 million cars were sold, albeit I doubt that. Well, who knows? Maybe Tesla can pull it off. The average selling price would be $30,000. And energy revenue would increase to $47 billion at a compound annual growth rate of 30. Estimated service revenue is $77 billion out of a total revenue of around $700 billion. EPS would be close to 46, and net income would be around $145 billion. We're looking at 23 million cars sold a year in the bull case, with an average selling price of $28,000. At a 35 annual growth rate, energy revenue would reach $62 billion. Service income would reach about $88 billion. As a result, there would be close to $800 billion in total sales, over $150 billion net income, and 48 EPS. We're talking about 25 million vehicles sold in the Ultra Bull case with an average selling price of $26,000. Revenue from the energy sector would soar to $80 billion, increasing at a startling 40 each year. Services would bring in more than $100 billion in income, an astounding amount. All of this results in revenue that exceeds $800 billion, a net income of $176 billion, and an earnings per share of more than 51. It's absurd. Just keep in mind that they are simply forecasts, nothing more. Please take these with a grain of salt, as they are not facts. Buckle up as we examine possible Tesla stock prices in 2030, covering both the optimistic Ultra Bull scenario and the pessimistic Ultra Bear situation. The Ultra Bull scenario is predicated on a P ratio of 15, whereas the Ultra Bear situation requires a ratio of 25. Prepare yourself for these astounding numbers. The stock price might soar to an astounding $718 per share in the Ultra Bear scenario, giving the company a market capitalization of more than $2, 3 cents trillion. In the bear scenario, it projects a market capitalization of more than $3, 6 cents trillion, and a stock price of more than $1,100 per share. In a bull market, we might see Tesla shares surpass $1,200 per share and reach a market capitalization of nearly $3.09 trillion. In the audacious Ultra Bull scenario, the stock price could ultimately rise to nearly $1,300 per share, boosting the market capitalization to almost $4, 2 cents trillion. We are genuinely amazed by these figures, which make us wonder about Tesla's possible future trajectory. Let's now turn our attention to the quantity of Tesla shares needed to become financially independent by 2030. I hope you're ready for the most exciting portion as we compute the number of shares needed at various stock prices to achieve that desired $1 million mark. Keep in mind that we're basing this research on the current stock price of roughly $150 per share, so any swings may influence the total worth. With that said, let's dig in. In the Ultra Bear situation, you would need around 1393 shares or a cash value of $210,000 to achieve $1 million by 2030, while $210,000 is no tiny number. Particularly during a recession, it sets the baseline for our calculations. Moving up to the bear case, we encounter the bear case where 1048 shares or a dollar value of $157,000 would be sufficient. As you can see, this represents a significant improvement, requiring $50,000 less than the Ultra Bear case. Let's explore the base case, which demands 892 shares or a dollar value surpassing $133,000. As we climb towards our goal, the bull case necessitates 774 shares or a dollar value exceeding $116,000. Finally, in our audacious Ultra Bull scenario, a mere 726 shares or a dollar value of approximately $108,900 would be enough to embark on a path toward the $1 million milestone. The Ultra Bear case, the base case, the bull case, and the Ultra Bull case, each case has its requirements and potential outcomes. While the Ultra Bear case may seem daunting with the stock price at a high value, it's not impossible to achieve success if you're committed and disciplined. The base case represents a more feasible option, requiring a considerable but attainable number of shares and a dollar value. It's better than the previous cases, but still not an easy feat. However, with determination and belief in Tesla's growth potential, reaching your investment goals is within reach. Now let's turn our attention to the bull case, which represents a significantly higher stock price prediction. If the scenario becomes reality, the potential gains would be substantial, although it still requires a 6-figure investment. It's comparatively better than the previous cases. Discipline and commitment remain vital factors in achieving success here. Moving on to the Ultra Bull case, the stock price reaches an even higher value. Despite the financial commitment involved, this scenario promises a potential 9-fold return on investment by 2030. While it's not pocket change, it's a more feasible option compared to the previous cases. It's important to note that investing a large sum of money, such as $100,000, all at once may not be feasible for everyone. This is where dollar cost averaging becomes crucial. By investing smaller amounts consistently over time, you can mitigate the risks associated with market fluctuations. Tesla stock presents a remarkable opportunity, and many investors consider it the greatest opportunity of our lifetime. Considering the financial requirements, some may be discouraged by the six-figure investment needed. However, let's play around with the current stock price to see how much you would need at different price points. Decreasing the stock price significantly reduces the initial investment required. It's worth exploring different scenarios to see the possibilities. In conclusion, retiring comfortably with Tesla stock by 2030 is entirely possible. This is not just one person's opinion. Even long-term investors, including those who have turned bearish, acknowledge Tesla's promising future. Once full self-driving is resolved, the market will shift in Tesla's favor. Remember, they faced similar doubts before and proved the skeptics wrong. FSD will follow the same trajectory, revolutionizing the market. This concludes the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to Test the Hype for more exciting content, and let's continue this journey together. I'm grateful